Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Skill RPA. So in the previous video, we developed the skeleton of RE framework with the help of state machines workflow. So we're done with this and now, so this is completed and now we will be looking at config file in the config dictionary object. And also like in the same session, we are going to cover the assets as well. And here in this video, first let us understand the config and how we can. So for that, what we need to do is I want to create two folders. Add folder. One is data folder and another is framework folder. So inside the data folder, I want to add a file. Config.xlsx. So we don't have it here, so I'll create it separately. And on this, I want to add a sequence. Init all settings. So in this workflow, you are going to deal with like how we will be like first we will have an explanation on what actually the config dictionary object, and then we will be working with um, the data files like the config data, and also we are going to look at how we can retrieve the assets and all. So we'll try to cover as much as we can do. And first let us define a variable config. And the config is a dictionary object. And when it comes to this dictionary, it is a key value pair. System dot change dot generic dot generic dot dictionary. So if we take this dictionary, it is asking that like key and values of data types, which means like it is a key value pair, and we can access the value with the help of key by passing on the key parameter. And what we need to make sure here in the dictionary is we need to be maintain the uniqueness of the keys. If not, the data will be overwritten. So I'm creating a string object dictionary of string and object, and here the key is string and the value is object. And we can say the dictionary is also a kind of array kind of object, but where we, like list kind of object, where in the list we will be calling the values with the help of indexes, but here we are going to call the values with the help of keys. So we'll see that. See, first thing is whenever we are dealing with the objects, like some data types, when if we don't initialize, then we are going to face an issue. So first, let us look at the errors, expected errors in this. So what I want to do is first I'll just write an info, and I created a config, and inside that I'm going to pass sample data dot toString. So this ideally this should throw us an error, and we'll see what is the error and why we are getting it, and we'll look at the reason as well. So we are getting that object reference not set to an instance of an object, which means like this variable is not initialized, and because of that reason, we are getting that like object reference is not set to instance and object. This may happen with many of the objects, like if we are directly trying to use the variable which is got created and which was not initialized or which is not having any data. So to initialize the object of any data type, what generally we'll do is we'll just give the variable name here, and in the right side, what we will do is new space, and whatever the type of a object we are going to initialize, we will just give that object name. And here it is dictionary. So we'll take the dictionary, and inside that, we'll be writing the key is string and the value is object. So here we need to pass in the type of parameters, because the dictionary is not a direct data type. It is a combination of these two data types. And when it comes to the list, right, in that list, we will be specifying only one data type, which will specify that what type of uh, data it is holding, because list is nothing but a group of items, and each item will have a different data types, right? In the similar way, here we will be having combination of key data type and the value data type, and we need to define which type of key it is holding and which type of value it is holding. So now we initialized. By this, we can eliminate this error. And let us run this. And now we are going to face one more error, and this error is much more common if we do any mistakes. See, this is what this is saying is that the given key sample data was not present in the dictionary, which means we have a dictionary config which holds a data of like key and value pairs, and whatever the key we are passing, we should have that key. If not, we are going to get this, the given key is not present in the dictionary. So we should give the value like the keys, we should supply the keys in order to get the value only if we have that keys. And now let us do one thing. Let us take one assign activity and let us assign the value to config of sample data with a some value. This is an sample data. And now let us run it. See, now we are getting the value. This is a sample data. Whatever we assign, we are getting it now. So this is the way we can add any of the keys and values to the existing dictionary. And let us suppose if I want to override, like in case if you are writing any duplicate keys to that, what will happen? Now it's duplicate key, and this is modified data. And let me change the log level to warning. Just it's not required, like because I just want to showcase you in different colors. Info will be in different color and warning will be in a different color. Just for presentation purpose, I'm just doing that. So if you see here, right, initially it was like this is a sample data, and later we changed or we overwrited that value to that particular key, and now we got that as a modified data. So this is how actually the dictionary works. And now let us, so we'll just park this dictionary object for a while and let us discuss about the assets. So for that, I need to log into, I need to log into the orchestrator. So I'm just pausing it for a while just to open my orchestrator cloud so that like we can have a discussion on top of it. So now let us see what is Orchestrator Assets. So when we log into the UiPath Orchestrator, we can see assets under this. Like in any of the folders, we can see the assets here, and we can create the assets here in this directly. And what we need to do is like we need to provide the asset name and the value, and the description and all these things are optional. So, but here we have four different types of assets like text, boolean, integer, and credential. So for all the three, we will be having only one input field. If you see, like it will be either true or false, and here we'll be passing on the value number. But for credentials, we need to provide the username and password. So here in all the three scenarios, the output of like getting the asset will be a single value, but when it comes to the credentials, it is two values. And here there is something called as global value, which means like let us suppose I'm executing the process with multiple robots. So this value will be considered to all the robots. And on a specific robot, I want to have a different value. So I can just use this add robot asset value. So here we can just search for the robot and we can write the username and password. So this will be utilized only for this particular robot. Like let us suppose if you want to use some credentials on different robots when the same process is getting executed or like different process when it is defined with the same asset name. So in that case, we can define multiple robot per asset values and each and every robot will pick that particular value. And if it is not assigned to like, let us suppose we have two robots and for this robot, we gave this value. And for the other robot, we didn't give any robot per asset value. In that scenario, it will consider this global value. So this is how the credential, like this is actually the credentials. So let us see how it works in the action. So let me leave this space. So I'll be taking two like ACME credentials, and this will be our credential asset. And let us create assets directly in new assets. Test credential, and I'm creating a credential asset value, which is user and password. I'm creating this value, and now I created the test credential. Okay, and I'll create one more asset, which is test text sample, and I'll create one more test bool, and I'm taking true value, create. And let us create one more asset, test int. So I'm trying to type some text values and it is not taking. So integer will take only the numbers. So now create. So these are the four different assets which I created now. So let us filter with that. So test boolean, test credential, test int, and test text. So here, let us see what activities do we have in terms of assets, right? So if you go here in the activities panel, we have get asset, get credential, set asset, and set credential. So here we have two different activities. One is get asset and the other is get credential. So if we are going to use the get credential asset, so we should give the asset names other than the credentials, because if you see here, the output of this, we have only one value, but the credentials are like it is of two values. One is username and the other is password. If I use this get credential, here we have two output. One is username and the other is password. So we just need to give the user asset name, and here we have orchestrator folder path. So in case if the asset is created other than this folder where our robot is connected, in that case, we need to give the folder name. If not, it is not required. And in the asset name, we just need to pass on the asset name in order to get that. For integer, text, and boolean, we need to have only one. We need to have the asset activity only, get asset only, and we can just give the asset name here. Okay, and we will get the value here. And in the credential, if you are passing on the credential asset in place of assets, right, we are going to get an error. So we just need to make sure that we use the get credential activity in order to get the credentials. Okay. And here we can give the name test credential, and it will return us the username and password. Here, if you see, right, like we are having string variables, but for password, it is secure string, which is like we cannot view that password. It was encrypted. So this is how we will be using the activities. And let us write the message box. What are the text we have, right? So we will be using that test text, and we'll use one more message box to see the username. We won't be using the password because it is a secure string and we doesn't want to dispose it out as per the practices. So we'll be seeing these two values, whether we are getting the exact value or not. So we got the sample, correct? And for credential, we gave an user, so we got it. So now what I want to do is, along with these two, so these two only we will be using in our RE framework or like in actual implementations in majority of the cases. So I want to show you how this set asset and set credential works. So let me give the credential name here. Whatever we have, right? Test credential. Let us copy this and let us put this here. And username, I want to give username, and for password, I'll give password. So, and for asset, I want to give text, and value I want to give changed asset. And let us run this process and see how the things are getting reflected. If I click on this refresh, now we got changed asset. And even in this test credential also, if you go and edit, you could able to see username. Previously it is user, but now it becomes username. So in this way, we can work with the assets. And when do we use assets and what is the purpose of using assets? Let us suppose in your process, there is some values which we feel that like there might be a possibility of getting any changes into those values during our process once it is deployed into the production. So in order to change the things in our code, we will be maintaining that in the assets so that we can directly change it from the interface and that can be utilized in our processes. Like as soon as we change the values there and the updated values will be fetched by the robot and we can process or we can continue with our process without making any changes, right? So now we understood like what is config and what are the assets and their purpose and the types of assets as well and different activities we have for assets. So now let us do one thing. Let us create the config file. So under the data, I want to create a new XLSX file, which I call it as a config. Let me open this. So I want to create some sheets here, and which I can call it as a settings, constants, assets. See, it's not necessary that we need to have only these three. Like what actually we need is we need to have a separate sheet for assets. And the others can be in a single sheet, or we can even categorize into different ways as well. And especially for credentials, so it we just need to maintain the other values into different sheets and the assets into one sheet. So let us have this name, value. So there will be other columns as well. Like we can just write it as a description, but these two are the main mandatory files. Like name will act as a key and the value will act as a value in the config dictionary whenever we are adding things. And for constants also, it will be name and its value. And in the assets, it will be name and here asset. So if you see here, when there's two sheets, we are writing name and values. But here in this sheet, we are writing name and asset. So name is always the key and asset is the asset name, right? What are the name we created in the orchestrator? So let us do one thing. Let us take this test boolean, test integer, and test text. So we created three asset values. So here name is boolean asset, integer asset, text asset. So here we created some keys for each and every asset. Okay, here is the asset names. And if you observe right, we just given all the three names, but we didn't give the credential name because here for all the assets, we need to use get asset activity. But for credentials, we cannot use that get asset activity. So for that, we need to use get credential. So what we will do is we will be putting that credential name under the settings. And we can have a separate sheet for the settings as well. And by default with the RE framework, we have a lot of values, but I'm just focusing on like how we can create this config file for new things. And also we can keep the existing as it is and we can just start writing something. And we have the orchestrator name by default available here. So that we will see later stage, like when we are coming to the get transaction data state. And for now, we are going with the existing and whatever we created right till now. So what we will be doing is we'll using this test credential. And this will be the value. And we can have the credential asset as a key. So this is how we will be having a config sheet, config data file. And now how we are going to utilize this and how we are going to load all the asset values into the this dictionary, this config dictionary. So first let us uh, do one thing. Let us take the sheet names because we need to have the sheet names fixed and we cannot go with other names. So what we will do is, so here these are hard-coded values. We are not going to create anything. So in underscore sheet names, and we will be using array of string. And the values we are going to give And also we are going to give the constants. And we are not going to give the assets because we need to separate these two things. Assets we will be considering as a separate, and the other sheets we will be considering it as separate. So here, what we need to do is we need to use a Rebrench in order to read the data from all this data. But for each, we are going to give the sheet names in underscore sheet names. And let us see, the type argument should be string. Yeah, it is done. So we'll be using sheet. So we will be using read range because we want to read the data from that particular config file. So it can be hard coded. And if you want to pass some variable kind of thing or argument kind of thing, it is up to us. But now we are taking it as fixed. And here we will be reading the data table to dt config. So now we are reading for each sheet into this table. And now we got the tables of name and value, which is like nothing but the key value pairs here, right? So here what we will do is we'll use for each row. So what we are doing here is like for each sheet, we are reading the data and we are using for each row of this dt config. And I was like comfortable in renaming this. So I'll be using new row. And here we want to add this data to the config dictionary, right? And here config, and what is the key? Key is nothing but row of name, right? Row of name dot toString. So we need to pass on the key, and the key is nothing but row of the column name dot toString. And here value is nothing but this value. So what we'll do is row of value. So by this, we added all the data to the config dictionary other than assets. Now we need to add the data to the assets. So for that, we will be using read range. And we'll be having the same file path again. And we need to give the sheet name. Sheet name is nothing but assets. If you see, right, like if we have more than these three sheets, every sheet will be read in the similar way in the above whatever we have done. And it will be name and value. We need to make sure that the columns should be name and value for other sheets. And here it will be name and asset. So everything will be similar, but the only change what we can see is, let us do one thing. Let us create k dt assets. So for each row of dt assets, so now we got this for each row of dt assets, we will be adding the data to the config, right? Which is nothing but row of, the key is nothing but, sorry, this will be the key. Row of name will be the key. Dot toString. Row of name dot toString. So this will be our key, but we need to add this to the config. So we passed our key and we need to pass our value. But here, whatever the asset name we have, this is not the value. This is the asset name. So to get the value, what we are going to do is we'll be using get asset activity. And inside this get asset activity, we are going to pass on the value of this, which is nothing but row of asset dot toString is the asset name, right? So we'll be using the same and we'll be going to the additional settings and the output will be asset value, control K, asset value. And we are going to add that as a value to this. So what additional step we have done is the keys are same in all the sheets, which is nothing but row of name dot toString. But in terms of asset sheet, we need to fetch the value from the orchestrator asset. Whatever we have in our config is asset name. So in order to get that, we are passing on row of asset dot toString in the get asset activity, and whatever the output we are getting, that we are passing as a value to the existing config. So with this, we completed our init all settings. So let us do one thing. So we have these values, credential, and here also I'll write sample constant, sample data. So now let me run this and let us see what we have in each of the config file. So what are the keys we have in the config? So for that, and anyhow, like we are going to delete this just for viewing this, we are writing it. So to access all the keys, what we will do is config dot keys. So we are getting all the keys here in this. And here the keys are of string. And we'll write this as key. And we'll use a log message. Info config of key dot toString. So we will see what all the values we have in the config. Okay. Let us run this file. Oops. Okay. Sorry. So let us go to the assets. So it is not directly accepting this. So what we will do is we'll click on this and we'll click on open advanced editor and we'll write this. Click on save. Now it should work. So if you see here, right, test credentials, whatever we have in the settings space. So in the settings space, if we are trying to call this particular key, we are getting this value. Under the constants, we are passing the sample constant and we are going to get the sample data. See here. But if you see all these three, right, we are getting the values directly from the assets which are associated with these names. We are not getting this. We are getting the values from the assets associated with this. So what this will do is the advantage of having this RA framework is coming into the picture when we have asset values and settings, everything is defined in our config without making any changes. Directly, we can access this config object with the help of these keys, whatever we have directly inside our process. And if you see, right, for credential asset, we are getting this value. So we will be using config of credential asset dot toString in the get credential activity whenever we want to use those credentials. So going further, even we will see that like how we are going to fetching the credentials as well. And this is the way like which we are going to build a config And here, I created the config as a dictionary object, as a variable, right? So let me delete this. We are not using those. So we have assets, right? Okay. So here we doesn't require this config as a variable. We need to convert this to the argument and that to out argument, because this is the framework component which we are going to invoke this inside the main. So we are converting this as an output object, and this whatever the config we have, right? So that will be coming out of this, and we will be utilizing that rest of our process. And this is how we are going to build a config with the help of assets. So hopefully in this video, we covered about what is the dictionary object and what is the advantage of the config object variable, whatever we are creating in this. And also we covered config file, and also we covered the activities related to the assets and how the assets are useful to us, how we can modify the values in the assets, and how we are, what is the advantage of assets and other sheets in the config as well, and what actually the difference between the other assets and the credential asset, how we are going to treat them. Hope this gives you a clear picture on like how our init all settings work. And to invoke this, we will be going to the initialization state. And see, I doesn't want to invoke this every time. I doesn't want to build this config every time. So what I want to do is, based on some condition, I want to invoke this. So we need to create an object or a variable which is config of type dictionary, string, and object. So we'll be writing a sequence here, which I call it as first run, because when I'm executing this initialization state for the first time only, I want to initialize the settings. I want to read the assets, because I don't want to go every time and read the assets, because I don't want to like have that much interactions with the web application, because getting assets is nothing but it's a kind of API call, right? So I don't want to go for every time to get the response out of it. So here what I will do is I'll just use an if activity. I'll use the else activity instead of if, because if is like bit got changed in the new version. Like we are for sure we are having these two. In the else, I don't want to do anything, right? So only in the if I want to do. And see how why I'm saying the first execution is there are two entry points for this initialization. One is the system exception in the process, and when we started the process. So when it is coming from start of the process, that we call it as the first execution. And at that time, we are not going to have any data in the config, because we are initializing in the edit all settings. And once we initialize that, we have all the data. So when I have all the data, I don't want to read the data again. So we will be putting the condition that config is nothing. In case if the config is nothing means it is coming from here, because the config is not yet initialized. So in that case, I want to invoke my init all settings. In any other, like if it is coming from the process and if it is coming here, in that case, I don't want to do that again. So we will be passing on the config here. So whatever the argument it is got created inside this init all settings, whatever the config dictionary object we created, and that we are getting it out as an into this R variable. And here I just change the scope to main, because I want that in all of my activities or all of the workflows where I'm going to invoke. So it should be available for me over the main and the highest scope. So this is all about init all settings and the config file, config dictionary object, and also the assets and the difference between the credential asset and the other assets. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to Skill RPA YouTube channel.